With Tyrese Maxey, I mean, I don't want to do an apples to apples comparison because it's not an exact
Then
comparison.
don't do it.
But the only difference between Tyrese Maxey and Cam Thomas averaging 26 for bad teams
This
is
is
that Tyrese Maxey is more liked. And defensively, he's 6'2" and he can't guard. He tries, but he's a smaller guard. He's a
Cam
6'2"
Thomas
shooting
can't
guard.
guard either.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that they're both gifted scorers, and the only difference between Cam Thomas being viewed as a complete negative and Tyrese Maxey being viewed as a positive and this budding superstar is the fact that he's had some playoff moments, which I'm not denying were exceptional playoff moments. But at the end of the day, like, I just don't know how far you can get with Tyrese Maxey being your best player and Tyrese Maxey even being your second best player. I have doubts about that.
The only difference is one is more likable than the other. I got another difference. One has scored 46 in a playoff game
I
against your New
understand the
York Knicks.
playoffs.
You
Yeah,
should
and
know
they
this better than
lost.
anybody.
They
And don't
lost.
do the Joel Embiid, oh, I know he's out or whatever, but they're still not winning anything. Who is his backup been? They haven't had a viable backup big on that roster. This boils down to one thing. One guy is sitting here with a 9-figure contract and the other one is not. I think if Cam Thomas was in Tyrese Maxey's position on a team that expects to win playoff games, he would have not gotten the same contract that Tyrese Maxey did. Not even close.
I'm not denying that Tyrese Maxey is better than Cam Thomas. I don't have Cam Thomas in my top 25 for a reason. I am just saying smaller guards, 6'2", that average 26 to 27 a night on bad efficiency. I'm not the highest on. I'm not the highest on. And I know Maxey has been efficient in the past when he's fed off the gravity of Joel Embiid. But when he has his own team and he's asked to be efficient, he was not efficient. Quentin Grimes was more efficient in his 21 games with the Sixers this past year when they were complete garbage than Tyrese Maxey was.
So let me just get this straight. Tyrese Maxey, from the time he has been drafted, he got drafted into a team with expectations with Ben Simmons on it. Ben Simmons, everything goes south. They have no idea what's going to happen going into training camp. Tyrese Maxey's coming off a rookie year having to play in a system that revolves around Ben Simmons. He moves on. James Harden comes in. He learns to play next to James Harden and produce next to James Harden. James Harden, the situation happens with him. James Harden demands a trade. Tyrese Maxey, I know all summer you trained to play next to two All-NBA caliber stars, but now it's your turn to be in the fire, the co-star to Joel Embiid. He lives up to it. He not only lives up to it, he has a 46-point playoff game in Madison Square Garden in 2024. Then they go out and trade Paul George, who at the time they thought was still an all-star caliber player. So now Tyrese Maxey going in and out of roles has figured out how to produce, not only how to produce, but average what you just said. That to me is why I have him in my top 10. He is not comparable to a guy like Cam Thomas.
See, this is why I disagree with you. This is not even about Cam Thomas anymore. This is about having him in the top 10. I don't have him in the top 10 because I think every player that I'm going to have in the top 10 does more than him and is more impactful to winning. Tyrese Maxey across 112 games without Joel Embiid has averaged 24 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, but he shot 41% from the floor and 25% from three. His efficiency plummets when he is asked to carry the offensive load. It is not efficient offense when he is the primary option. And that is my concern with him. Listen, as a secondary option, there's no doubt I want Tyrese Maxey, but if you are not great enough to anchor either side of the floor, he can't be an anchor offensively, he can't be an anchor defensively, then his value to me is going to be lower than the players I have over him.
It hasn't been a fair judgment to say he can anchor this team. Like, I don't expect Cam Thomas to go out there and win. I don't
No,
expect
I
Tyrese
don't.
Maxey with a decimated roster to go out there and anchor an offense to win.
So do you think Tyrese Maxey can anchor an offense by himself?
In a team that's built around him, absolutely.
And you would
If
want to build a team around Tyrese Maxey?
I'm not saying I would want to. I think the Grizzlies are a good comp. If I put him in John Morant's position, I think that team would be competitive in the Western Conference.
I think you guys would miss the playoffs.
I'll call it a play-in team. I have the Grizzlies finishing 8th, and that's a stretch for the NBA media world.
And you'd be worse with Maxey.
Yeah, I think 9-10.
And that's why, to me, it's like, if that's your best player, how far is it getting you? And I understand the same could be said for other players I have on the list, because there's one that I have over him that maybe you could argue is projection, but that's why I'm lower on Maxey and why he's not in my top 10.
I'm just glad I got you to move off the Cam Thomas comp. That's what I'm glad about.
Oh, no, listen, it's just about small guards who score a lot of points.
But your name stopped coming out of the mouth.
They're perceived differently. They're perceived differently when they play for the Nets versus the Sixers. If you average 26 on the Nets, you're empty stats, you're garbage. If you average 27 on a team that just got a top 5 pick, you're the savior. You're a franchise player.
Nope. Because it's not just in that. I already listed the 4 different environments he has averaged great numbers in.
So we're not going to mention in the playoffs how he was part of the playoff collapse with the Sixers up 3-2 against the Boston Celtics. He did nothing in that moment. We're not going to mention when they played against the Knicks, he was inefficient in half of those games in that playoff series. We're just going to mention the highs, but we're not going to mention the lows. We're not mentioning no.
We're not going to mention Cam Thomas sitting here unsigned in August. That's what we're talking about. The comp is not there. Yes, the comp is not there.
And I think if the Sixers had to pay Tyrese Maxey this year, they probably would have not done it.
That is utterly ridiculous.
They wouldn't have had cap space to do it. That's what all I'm saying.
That's why they did it last summer. That's why they did it last summer.
And the reason why nobody's paid Cam Thomas is because they don't have cap space, but also this has been the offseason that NBA teams have collectively.
The Nets had cap space. They had the most cap space in the league.
This is what I'm saying. This has been the offseason where NBA teams collectively have given up on high volume scoring guards. Cam Thomas, Anthony Simons, you name it. This has been the offseason the NBA collectively has said that is not very valuable to us.
Tyrese Maxey's valuable to the 76ers. His paycheck says it, but that's okay. LaMelo Ball, I have at 12 behind Tyrese Maxey, well behind Tyrese Maxey. LaMelo is a guy who's averaged 30 in this league. There's something about Melo. I think he still has the star power. I'm still a believer. That's why he cracked my top 12.
Number 8, I have LaMelo Ball. And this is where you're probably going to disagree with me because you think like Tyrese Maxey and LaMelo's case is similar. The reason why it's not similar is because Tyrese Maxey is 6'2" and LaMelo Ball is 6'7". I think LaMelo's size automatically gives him the edge to be a better defender if he's in a good environment. And I think we cannot just under-discuss the environment that LaMelo Ball has been in. I have in the past called LaMelo the most overrated player in the NBA because the perception of him is different than the reality of him, but the reality of him is still a great player. And the reason why
overrating him,
the reason why I called him overrated was because people had LaMelo Ball over Tyrese Maxey heading into last season. Over Tyrese Halliburton heading into last season. I mixed them up. They're both names, first name Tyrese. And I never thought, despite the counting stats, LaMelo impacted winning more than Tyrese Halliburton. And I was proven right with the playoff run Tyrese Halliburton had, and I've always been a believer in Halliburton. But LaMelo Ball, the reason why I have him over Tyrese Maxey is I think he's a better scorer than him. I think he's a way better playmaker. I think the playmaking gap between the two is astronomical. And the size that he has just gives him an advantage to not only rebound the ball better, but also defend better. And I think the environment he's been in has really held him back as a player. He has not been in a winning environment. But if he played
the environment's held him back. It's not him. Okay.
It's the Charlotte Hornets. The Charlotte Hornets have held everybody back. What are we talking about?
Can we talk about his shot selection? Can we do that?
Yes, let's talk about his shot selection. It is poor. I'm not saying it's not poor. There are things in LaMelo's game that needs to be refined, but it's hard to have that refinement when you don't have good coaching or good teammates around you. Had he played next to Joel Embiid and learned under James Harden, like you don't think LaMelo is a completely different player right now? Yes, I think he is.
No, I don't.
I do think he is. Yeah, absolutely, I think he is.
So let me get this straight. You have LaMelo Ball over Scotty Barnes.
Yes.
Alperen Şengün.
Yes.
Tyrese Maxey.
Yes.
And Chet Holmgren.
Yes.
That is blasphemous.
LaMelo Ball, if you're telling me here's a good situation, you need a player to be your offensive engine for that situation, I'm taking him over Chet, Şengün, Maxey, Scotty Barnes. I'm taking LaMelo. The Hornets were plus 9 points better with LaMelo on the court this past year. They had LaMelo's on and off was plus 9. They were so bad. LaMelo's on and off last year, his point differential plus 9.5 was in the 93rd percentile. They basically were competent with LaMelo, and then when he left, they were the worst team in the NBA. And I know they were already bad, but to start the season, the Hornets were a very entertaining basketball team, and it's because he was playing incredibly well. I think that he has a higher ceiling than all of the players that we named. And
what was
I
what
would
was
bet
their
on him.
record? You call him entertaining, but you're sitting here saying Tyrese can't shoulder. You would build around him? Would you build around LaMelo?
Well, the difference
That's
is
where
that
it's gotten you.
the difference is that this past season, LaMelo was plus 9.5 and Tyrese was plus 5.3.
Okay.
The differential with LaMelo was better.
I'm not low on LaMelo. In fact, I was scared to put him at 12. I thought that would be way above. I was expected to come on here and have to argue him against Scotty Barnes, argue him
No, absolutely
against.
not. LaMelo needs to be in a good organization, and I believe in his talent. I think that the most obvious superstar is in front of our faces, and that's LaMelo Ball if he ever gets into a good situation. Like, I think LaMelo is that gifted and that talented, and this isn't a player that's done nothing. It's not like a Steph Curry breakout where Steph Curry in his first 3 seasons had ankle injuries, but he was dropping every year points per game wise, where, you doubted whether or not he'd be sustainable long term. Like, Steph Curry was the most random superstar that birthed out of nowhere. His rookie year, 17.5 points. That was great. Second year, 18.6. That was great. Third year, 14.7. After Steph Curry's third year, a lot of people were out on Steph Curry too. And I think that right now people are starting to be out on LaMelo Ball. And I'm like, hey, not so fast. I think he can shoulder an offensive load. He just needs to be in a good situation. I worry that won't happen in Charlotte. But LaMelo in a good situation, I think can be a winning basketball player. Yes, I do.
I am with you. I am still a believer in his talent. I would rather have him on my team than Scotty Barnes. But you yourself just mentioned Alperen Sengun being the best player on a number 2 seed.
Yes.
Right now, I would rather have Sengun on my team than LaMelo Ball.
Well, if
I would rather have Tyrese Maxey. I would rather have Chet Holmgren.
I just disagree. It might be different for the Chet thing, but if I had a 1-for-1 swap on the table and I'm the Sixers, Maxey for LaMelo, I'd take it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even think about it.
Okay. Similar players, similar output.
Yeah, one is just 6'7", a better playmaker, and rebounds better. Yes, that's why he's 100%. Better than Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a close argument, but I'm not sitting here having LaMelo in the top 7 or 8.
And with the Rockets, if I did a 1-for-1 swap, Sengun for LaMelo, I think the only thing you're worried about is health. He needs to stay healthy because over the past 3 seasons, 47 games played, 22 games played, 36 games played. The major gripe is health. But if we're talking about health, like if you're healthy, I would have LaMelo with the men, with KD, and start Steven Adams or Clint Capella and just ride out with that team.
But Joel, you can't sit here and be so down on Joel Embiid, rightfully so. I am too. But we're talking about a guy here who's played a combined 58 games the last 2 seasons. In 2 seasons, he's played 58 games total.
The difference is that LaMelo Ball
doesn't
have a major injury. He doesn't have an ACL injury. He doesn't have an Achilles injury. These are nagging injuries that he's had.
It's
not nothing serious.
It's ankle, lower leg injuries over and over.
But it's not a major injury. Embiid has had surgeries on both knees already. Okay. Embiid is essentially cooked from a health perspective. And I hate to say it, but that's just the reality of the situation. He didn't play his first 3 years in the NBA because of the injury risk to him and because of his health.
But it's not out of the possibility that everybody wants to point at Ja and be like, that's just who he is. We don't know who he's going to play. Ja played 50 games last year. And LaMelo, a guy who's played 50 games in 2 years, I'm just saying it's worth asking the question. Maybe that's just who he is.
I don't think so. I disagree with you. I don't think that's who he is. I think he'll get healthy.
Okay, fair. Let's move on.